When I got started building mobile applications over 7 years ago, there was no way in my mind that I ever thought that I'd be able to build real-time applications with just a few lines of code. When I got started, I know because I tried. I was building mobile applications with Xamarin. I was trying to use WebSockets. I was trying to long pull. There was no way for me to do it. What I love now, today as a .NET developer, that we're able to build these real-time applications and reuse all of our knowledge that we know and love from C# and .NET for mobile devices, desktop, console, and web. So I'm going to go over everything that you can do with real-time, with Xamarin to build mobile apps, and with SignalR. So again, what I love about just .NET as a whole is that as a developer, I can build for any single operating system, any platform out there. It's truly your platform to build for anything. Now let me open up a little bit about Xamarin before we get into real-time communication, so we have a foundation for what Xamarin is and how you build applications with it. Well, Xamarin is part of .NET, and we define it as an open source app platform to build modern and performant iOS, Android, macOS, watchOS, tvOS, all the things from Google and Apple with .NET, and share code with every single .NET application out there. You think of it as another head of your application. And the architecture is just like that. You had an iOS app or an Android app or any other .NET application, and you share code across all of them. All of your business logic, you have platform APIs, and even cross-platform UI that you can throw in there. What's unique about Xamarin is that you have access to every single iOS, Android API, all in C#. There's no bridge, there's no glue. Every single API that's available to an iOS or Android developer, you have access to in C#. And this is awesome because you also have all of .NET. So let's talk about real-time applications and how Xamarin can step in there. Well, real-time applications are unique because to me, when I'm making a RESTful service call, that's not super real-time. My backend has to go do something, I have to long pull. But real-time applications are for when we need sort of this information on demand. So maybe you're building a chat application or sending notifications that a new item was generated. Or you're building a game and you want to have notifications when a user enters or exits a room, or just the game itself where it's happening in real time. And of course, you want these experiences to go to every single different device out there, whether it's in the browser, on a mobile device, on a tablet, or on a TV. And that's where SignalR comes in. It's our service and framework here from Microsoft to enable you to build real-time applications from your back end to your front end. So some common scenarios there is with SignalR, we have this concept of a hub. It is sort of the host that is processing all of the communication to and from your clients. So here, with my beautiful illustrations, that PowerPoint included, we have the hub. Look at it, sitting there in the hub. Literally, it's so meta. And that's going to sit there and handle all the client communication. So you have all these devices that are going to connect. So a common scenario is just, hey, something happened and push out a notification to anybody that is listening. This is different than a push notification because these clients are actively connected and listening in the background for them via SignalR client, which I'll talk about here in a second. Push notifications go through a whole separate service, which are then scheduled on Google or Apple or Microsoft's back-end services. Another common scenario here is that, hey, you have one of the clients that sends a message to the back end, and that message then needs to be replicated out to everybody that's subscribed. So some of the patterns, and I'll talk about a few more here in a second. So what's unique is that SignalR handles all of this for you automatically. It'll do all of the connection management. It'll send out all the messages to any of the clients simultaneously. You can send it to specific clients or specific groups, and you can scale this easily using different methods in Azure, which I'll talk about here in a second. But what I love, though, is that this stuff is hard because there's so many different browsers, so many different mobile devices, is that it handles all of the transport for you automatically and falls back gracefully. So if you can use WebSockets, it uses WebSockets. Else it goes down to server-side events, else it'll go to long polling. Now what's really cool is that that hub has a whole SDK. So you can kind of think of it as what's running on my back end and what's running in my clients. So the hub you can run with .NET, specifically ASP.NET Core or ASP.NET, which I'll show here in a second. Or we have an entire Azure SignalR service that'll scale out automatically for you. On the client end, it's not just .NET apps, but it is all of your .NET apps, so ASP.NET, Xamarin, Windows, desktop, all through a .NET Standard API. Or if you're building more browser apps that are not ASP.NET, or you want to do it in JavaScript or TypeScript, there's an SDK available, or Java for Java development or Android development. So let me go ahead and get into a demo really quick. So what I want to show off is how easy it is to send that first scenario. Something happened in the back end, and I want to tell all of my clients about it. So I'm over here on my Mac inside of Visual Studio for Mac. Go ahead and bump this up a little bit here. So I have a simple application. It's kind of file new Xamarin application, but I've added an ASP.NET Core backend to it. So over here, I have ASP.NET Core, and I have an item controller. So here, inside of my startup code of my ASP.NET Core app, I do a few things. I'm going to configure my services. I configure Swagger, my singletons, and SignalR is built into ASP.NET Core, so I add SignalR. Now, the core of SignalR in the back end is that you have these hubs that each of the clients are going to connect to. And the hub proxies those messages to and from the clients and handles all of the authentication and grouping. So what I do down here in my configure is just like I would configure Swagger, my app is going to map a hub to this thing called a messages hub, to a specific URL of /hubs/messages, which is very important here, which we'll see in a second. So what I'm going to do is come into my item controller. And well, what I'll show you here first is the hub. It's the most simplest hub ever. It doesn't do anything. It's just an endpoint on my back end, but it inherits from the SignalR hub. Now, in a more complex sample that I'll show, I'll add a bunch of stuff here. But what I want to do is anytime I add something into my item controller, I want to propagate out that message. So I'm going to go into my item controller. And here I have my repository, and I also take in this iHub context. So I could send things directly from my hub or from my controller using this context. So let me show you how easy this is. Whenever I create an item, I simply add it to my repository, and then here I'm going to simply go ahead and say hub, clients, send it to everybody asynchronously, and I give it a string. It's stringly typed to say I'm going to send it as new item, in which everybody will be listening for a new item, and I serialize that item. Literally 4 lines of code in my back end. Now, on my front end, what we're going to do here is first bring in the ASP.NET Core SignalR client into my iOS, Android, or any other .NET app, and into my .NET Standard library. Here I have a list of items. It's going to listen for them. So I just have a list view, and it has a list of items. This will render the native UI for iOS and Android here. And it'll display the item, text, and description. Now, the good part of this is the view model and the code behind. So what we're going to do is bring in this hub connection. This hub connection is going to allow me to send messages to that backend or subscribe. So here I've created the hub connection. Let's go ahead and build it really quick. Look at how fast I can type. Whoa, amazing. So I'm going to say new hub connection builder, give it the endpoint, which you just saw, and say build. Now what we're going to do is listen for any of the events that are coming in for that new item. Wow, James, you are a really fast typer, and you just walk away from the keyboard. Magic. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to say hub client on. And I'm going to tell it, what am I listening for? And I'm listening for a string on new item. And then what I'll do is, since it's going to be listening on the background, I'm going to say on the UI thread, deserialize that object and insert it into my list at the beginning. So a few lines of code there to listen. And then I'll need to start the connection to SignalR. So the first thing my app does is it loads all my items. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and add a little bit of code here to automatically start a connection. So I'll say hub connection start, and if it doesn't throw an exception, we're good, and now I'm listening. So what I need to do first is start up my backend. So I'll say .NET run on my backend. So I'm going to be running it all local on localhost. This is going to spit out my ASP.NET Core backend and my Swagger, and then I'm going to hit debug here. So this is going to compile my iOS and Android application, and then send it off to be deployed. I also have the Swagger running right here on localhost. There we go. And I can get all my items. So if I try this out, whoops. So if I try this out, let me go ahead and let this go real quick. Put this over here, iOS and Android. There we go. I can see that I should get a few items back. So all the items that are represented over here. Now what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to say post, and then I'll say try it out. All my apps are listening, so I'll go ahead and say execute. Or maybe I'm not going to say execute. Failed something. Let's try this one more time here. Let's look at my back-end logic here. So I should be listening here on my local host, which is ideal. What's great about, of course, debugging is we can come in and make sure that everything is properly being debugged. And here it is, listening. That's good. OK, SignalR connected. OK, I feel much better now that there's a pop-up dialog. That's good. OK, SignalR is connected. And now I'm going to go ahead and execute. And now we're going to see all the items come in near real time into my application because I'm connected to that SignalR client. And it's sitting there listening over and over with just a few lines of code into my application. Those are all running over localhost, but of course, I could go ahead and publish that out to Azure. But you can see how fast it is. Even if I zoom in, you can see I've added a random number so they add into that list in near real time because it's listening via that hub connection. So that's one of the use cases that I absolutely love. But let's go on over here and actually talk about some other scenarios that you can do with real time. So I talked about this sending a message. So you can send that out to everybody, but SignalR also has the ability to send it to just others. It knows about who sent or received the messages, so it can figure out to say, everybody else that's listening, let me send it to them. Or if you want to, you can say, you know what? I sent this message, and only my mobile phone is listening on a group interface. So it can say, only send it to that group. So a lot of different scenarios that SignalR will handle for you automatically. So let's create a chat application, because who doesn't want yet another secure chat application? So I've created the Xam chat application for iOS and Android. And what we're going to do is we're going to build this out, and we're going to have it so I can connect to a chat room of a group and then listen to that over here on my mobile devices. So now I'm on my Windows machine, because I switched out really easily, as you saw. So I'm going to build this. So this is, again, another page that I've written in our cross-platform XAML with Xamarin Forms. And over here, I have my previewer, so I kind of see a little representation. So what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to see when new members and new users join and put a little bubble up top, and then also put in new messages. So this is using some of our newer APIs, such as collection view. So here, if I go ahead and zoom in, we can see I have a collection view, which is going to be all of my users. So down over here, I can build a really simple user interface with a frame, which has a corner radius of 20 and a height request of 40. So it's a perfect circle right there, which is very nice, using our material design visual. And then a label here. I'm going to output the first letter. Then over here, I'm going to have another collection view underneath it. Now, what's cool here is that this is going to be all my chat messages. And we've done something really, really cool. Inside of here, a normal list view scrolls from the top. So one of our MVPs showed us this awesome trick, is that Xamarin Forms has rotation built right in. So if you want things to go from the bottom, just rotate things 180, and then rotate it again 180, and then you're scrolling from the bottom. It's amazing. It's the dirtiest hack that's ever been created, but I love it. It's so good. Because we have built-in animations, built-in rotations, and everything that you can do. And to your users, they have no idea, because it's just a native control. So I do the similar things down here. I have a few frames, I have a grid, and I'm just outputting information here. So if I go into my ASP.NET Core application backend everything is nearly identical. Here, I'm using add SignalR as a service. And then over here, what I've done is I've mapped the hub's chat to the chat hub. Now, the chat hub is a little bit more complex. What it's going to do is it's going to automatically figure out how to add and remove people to groups and how to send messages that it receives from the mobile app to all of the other users in that group. So if I go ahead in over here, and let me zoom in really big, is I have a few different sort of methods that can be called. What's cool is that this add to group and remove from group that you see are the method names or the strings that the mobile apps can call. So they can add themselves or remove themselves from the group, or they can send a message to the group. So here what's nice is inside of the hub itself, I have two different properties, groups and clients. So the group says, add this user to the group. And it's going to take in a connection ID and the group name. Now, what's really nice is that you don't have to worry about the ID of that user. You don't need to pass it in. SignalR, when this method gets called, assigns a unique identifier from the connection. And when I want to remove, you remove. And here, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to send a message to each of those groups. I'm going to say this user entered and this user left. So now, when one of my mobile apps wants to make send a chat message, what it's going to do is send in the group name it wants to send to, the user that it is, and the message. So SignalR is waiting for messages to come in and then send them out to all of the other users. So here, just like before, it's going to send the group name, receive message, and then the user and the message. So now it becomes really cool because I can create a cross-platform service that any single .NET application could use. So maybe it's a desktop app, a mobile app with Xamarin, or even a console app. So what we have, like I had before, is my iOS, Android, and a .NET Standard library that's going to have all of my user interface for my chat room that I just showed you. And then what I've created is another .NET Standard library, which is going to be my actual sort of chat service that's going to handle the connections to and from SignalR in the back end that anybody can use. So the core of it here is that I want to subscribe to notifications. So anybody can come in, and what they're going to do is simply initialize. So just like before, I'm going to send it a URL, but I'm going to see if I'm on localhost and use HTTP, else if I'm connecting to Azure, use HTTPS. And then what I'm going to do is put in some retry logic for a best practice, is if for some reason the network gets a little flaky, try to reconnect automatically for me. So I do a little timeout, I notify the user that it's been disconnected, and I try to connect asynchronously. And then just like before, I'm going to do a few things. My client is going to be listening for receive message, entered, or left, and those are coming from the hub. And what I do here is I trigger an event that my mobile app can subscribe to. So instead of just putting the business logic of the service hub in my view model, I'm going to kind of abstract it into a generic service. And then down here, I'm going to connect asynchronously. I'm going to disconnect asynchronously and dispose of my connection. And then down here, I'm going to have it so my mobile apps can enter or leave a channel. And guess what? I send a message to the back end. I remove myself from the group, or I add myself to the group. And when I want to send a message, what do? I simply say send message to group with my group username message, calls into notification hub, and disperses it out. I've also created a little helper here that just gives me some rooms, and those are the group names that I'm going to pass in. So now inside my mobile application, what's pretty cool is that I can go, and instead of instantiating that hub connection right here and kind of locking it into my mobile app, what I do inside of my chat view model is I create a chat service. So here's my chat service that comes in. I give it the IP address, and if I want to use HTTPS, and then all I do here is figure out when my little helper tells me new messages come in and out, all I'm going to do is add or remove myself from the user interface. So my view model is super clean now. And when I want to connect, I go ahead and I say connect asynchronously to my backend. And then I'm going to say, once I've connected to SignalR, join the channel. And the same thing down here when I want to disconnect, leave the channel, and disconnect from the backend. So when I enter the page or leave the page, do that. Then when I want to send a message, you guessed it, I call into my chat service, which communicates to SignalR. Boom, it's good to go. Now for the user interface, it's actually really simple. Whenever I get a notification, just like I was doing before, I insert a chat message into the user interface or put in a new user. So what's cool about this is I have my entire SignalR service running locally. So we'll go ahead and spin up .NET, my service. Over here, I have my application running. So now I'll go in and tap the Xamarin chat room. So what this is going to do is now communicate to my backend and connect to my backend, my hub, and it's sitting there. But it's running locally, and I can only really stress one Android emulator at a time. But luckily for everybody here, I love building console apps. So I built a console app because why not? Where I can come in and use that same core chat service that I was using for my mobile apps for a .NET Core app here. So I'm going to say localhost, boom. It's going to query connect up, and I'm going to enter the Xamarin room. There I am, and I'll say hello. Hello. Whoa, oh my goodness. Right, and then I can come here, say hello world, hit the send button, and now it's coming up into my console. Which is pretty awesome with just a few lines of code. And all of the connection to SignalR is now reusable between all of my .NET applications. But then it gets better, because why wouldn't we put this up onto the internet? So what I've done is I've gone ahead and published that ASP.NET Core backend off into Azure. It's just an ASP.NET Core web app that's sitting in App Service, and I put it on the free tier because I love to see how SignalR works on the developer free tier. So this is up here, and now what I can do is a few things. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go into my profile, and I'm going to say, let me go ahead and paste the URL here. Nope, it's not going to do it. So I'll say zamchatter.azurewebsites.net. There we go. So now I'll come into my dashboard, and I'm going to connect to the .NET room. Now what I can do over here is this going to connect out to my Azure backend, and I'll say exit here, and I'll say .NET run again. Then I'll say zamchatter.azurewebsites.net. This is now going to connect to my backend, say .NET. Hello from the internet. Cool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto my Android device here. So now we're not running locally. And also onto my iPhone and connect to the .NET room. See a third one comes up. Connect to the .NET room. How many devices can I possibly have in my hand? There we go. And now all of them are coming up, not only in my console and my mobile app, on my phones right here, all commuting to my Azure backend. Now what's cool is if I was to come in and say, let's say I come here and I say leave, I'm going to go into the Xamarin chat room. Did you see that, how it just came in? If I go .NET again, comes in, leave, immediate. If I now say I'm going to go into the Xamarin chat room and I say hello world, that's going to be sent off, and now that's in the actual Xamarin chat room. So now if I go ahead and leave, go back into Xamarin, and here I say hello from Android, hit OK there, now it's there. Because we're sending it to the specific group all in real time. It's absolutely astonishing with only a few lines of code. I can't believe I wrote this thing, and I know nothing about WebSockets. It's amazing. But better yet, it's kind of cool, is that everyone here can download the Android application if you have it by going to aka.ms/xamchat. And this will download that Xamarin application on the free tier that I have. They're going to turn me off at some point, I'm sure. That's sitting there. Because I've published this app and I've built it fully in App Center and distributed it out. So you should be able to grab this. But also, all of the source code from everything that I've shown you here will go live 5 minutes after I get out of here because I didn't want everyone to download the app. So let's put that back up. So you can download this, play around with it, and connect up with all of your friends. And now you have a beautiful chat room where I am not monitoring it, but I will turn it off in probably an hour or two. So there you go. Now what's cool is that this is all running on an ASP.NET Core application. So if you already have ASP.NET Core, you can automatically integrate it there. But you can also take advantage of the Azure SignalR service to handle everything for you automatically and tie those up to Azure service so you can have it scale on demand, which is really great for a chat app. So tomorrow at 4 p.m., Anthony Chu is actually going to do an entire session showing off how to do that. So I recommend you come right back here and give Anthony's session a go. So with that, there's tons of great sessions on Xamarin here at Build 2019, so I hope that you come and check us all out. Check out the Xamarin booth for all sorts of goodies. Here's every single thing that you need to know about Xamarin, Azure Chat, and the entire chat application that I built right here, so you can go back, play around with it, and develop beautiful real-time applications with SignalR and Xamarin, and thank you so much.